Welcome back to Koi Recap, everyone. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a famous webtoon from South Korea, Sweet Home, which has been a sensation not only among comic fans but also among anime and manga enthusiasts. In today's video, let's recap the storyline of Sweet Home together. Let's dive into the video to find out more. Let's go! The story begins with Cha Hyun-soo, a high school student who is heavily traumatized after being a victim of school violence. Gradually, he becomes disillusioned with his family, society, and adopts a selfish lifestyle, spending his days indoors glued to his computer. Then one day, his family gets into a car accident, and both his parents and younger sister are killed. They leave behind some savings for Hyun-soo. With that meager amount, he has to move to a rundown apartment to live. The building's janitor, who is a good man, is treated poorly by everyone. Hyun-soo's neighbor is a girl who dreams of working in the entertainment industry but is haunted by her weight. Hyun-soo sees the world around him as bleak and decides to end his life on October 25th. However, strange events begin to occur. The janitor suddenly disappears. Strange conversations appear on the internet, and then, while going out to pick up a package delivered to his door, Hyun-soo discovers that his neighbor has turned into a monster and attacks him. In a desperate situation, Hyun-soo luckily escapes death due to the sound of Jisoo's bass guitar, a girl who lives upstairs from him. This music attracts the attention of the monster. After it leaves, Hyun-soo steps outside and coincidentally meets Payeon, a former detective who was fired for violent behavior towards criminals. Seeing the chaos around him, Payeon assumes Hyun-soo is the culprit and interrogates him. But at that moment, Hyun-soo starts to have nosebleeds and faints. During his faint, he continuously hears strange voices, asking about what he desires. While Hyun-soo is unconscious, the monster runs up to Jisoo's floor and repeatedly bangs on her door. This attracts Payeon's attention. But when he rushes to the scene, the monster has disappeared. At this point, everyone in the building gathers on the ground floor because the elevator is broken, the gates are locked, and the phones are out of service. They are trying to figure out how to access the control room to open the doors to the outside when Lee Hyuk, a student the same age as Hyun-soo, appears. He breaks the lock to deal with the situation at hand. But as soon as the outer gate opens, another monster appears. It breaks the glass door and successfully kills someone nearby. To protect themselves and the others, Lee Hyuk and Payeon fight back against the monster and manage to close the iron gate outside. It's only then that everyone realizes there isn't just one monster, and they are appearing both outside and inside the apartment building. These monsters were transformed by humans. There isn't much information about them online, with most people believing it to be some kind of infectious disease. Regarding Hyun-soo, after learning this, he becomes disheartened and even unwilling to fight for survival, only wishing to find something to fill his hungry stomach. Remembering the instant noodles outside his door, Hyun-soo ventures out and inadvertently encounters a monster missing half its head. Because it has no eyes, it relies on sound to attack its prey. Recognizing this, Hyun-soo hides in the restroom to avoid confrontation. However, he accidentally makes noise, prompting the monsters to immediately attack. Hyun-soo luckily survives the perilous situation. Afterward, he investigates the cause of this monster epidemic and learns that symptoms of the disease include hearing strange voices in one's head, nosebleeds, fainting, and eventually transforming into a monster. These are the signs that have appeared in Hyun-soo. While contemplating his own death, a monster with a head full of eyes appears outside his room window but only observes without attacking. Fed up with being confined to his room, Hyun-soo immerses himself in his favorite video game and inadvertently chats with another player. He even talks about his planned suicide on October 25th without knowing that the player is Lee Hyuk. The group on the first floor has gathered and formed a team to rescue those trapped on the upper floors. Hyun-soo becomes increasingly negative after several days of hiding in his room. Until he heard the voices of the family downstairs trying to escape through the window. The father is then attacked and killed by the all-eyed monster, and his children become the next targets. After a mental struggle, Hyun-soo decides to protect them. So he attracts the attention of the monster towards him and confronts it head-on. It's a terrible idea because the monster is much stronger than he is. However, thanks to his determined will to survive to watch the final episode of his movie, Hyun-soo manages to injure it. However, the monster quickly regenerates and becomes even more furious when attacking him. At that moment, a gunshot rings out, severing the connection between the monster's head and body, saving Hyun-soo's life. It was Han Dusik, living near his room, who sacrificed his leg to save others and now lives alone after his wife abandoned him. He offers, if Hyun-soo wants to save the children, he can provide him with some homemade weapons to improve his chances of survival against the monsters. With information that monsters can be detected nearby through sound transmitted into hearing aids, Hyun-soo successfully avoids the half-headed monster and goes down to the lower floor. But eventually, it still detects him, forcing him to use the electric spear Han gave him to knock it out. As he moves on, a parasite monster inside him appears, accusing him of being a hypocrite for deciding to save the children and then disappearing. As he reaches the lower floor, Hyun-soo realizes there is a muscular monster prowling around and devouring civilians. He avoids it and heads to the children's room. Here, he encountered a strange monster. It didn't attack but ran away. Later, he persuaded the group of children to accompany him to Mr. Han Dusik's room. However, the monster inside him did not allow things to go smoothly. It sensed his desire to become a hero. However, the transformation process failed due to Hyun-soo's strong will. Just then, the muscular monster detected them and attacked. Hyun-soo tricked it to protect the children. When cornered against the wall, the girl from upstairs, Jisoo, and a Taoist practitioner named Jaehoon appeared and rescued him. Going back a few days, Jisoo stayed in the room to watch over Hyun-soo when he fainted. Just then, she heard noise and found a disillusioned man in the process of transformation. He lunged at her, but Jaehoon appeared, slicing off half of the monster's head and helped her to escape. Hyun-soo then pleaded with Jaehoon to help him save the children. At this moment, 2 children were trapped in the battle between 2 monsters. After defeating the monster with half a head, the muscular monster chased after the children. Myangja, a delusional woman who lost her 2 children, appeared and stood up to protect them. However, it was impossible for her to fight, and she was thrown aside. The stroller was also smashed, making her realize that her child was no longer there. Now, Hyun-soo, Jisoo, and Jaehoon also arrived. All 3, witness Myangja, who was in the process of transforming into a monster, made the muscular monster fly out of the house. They all then returned to Mr. Dusik's room. Although Hyun-soo and Myangja were infected, both seemed to be able to control themselves, not letting the monsters take over them. After learning that there were still survivors on the first floor, Jisoo and Jaehoon, along with Hyun-soo, decided to go down to see. The 2 children were handed back to Uncle Dusik and Mrs. Myangja for care. At the 4th floor, Pyeon along with Eun, Lee Hook's younger sister, managed to defeat the half-headed monster by pouring gasoline and burning it to ashes. While moving, all 3 encountered a multi-legged monster. Hyun-soo accidentally made a noise, drawing its attention and causing it to chase after him. Despite fighting with all their might, their attacks were futile against the monster. And in a moment of vulnerability, it pierced Hyun-soo's head with its proboscis. He woke up in the hospital. His uncle told him that he was the sole survivor of their family's car accident and hoped that he could live more responsibly. Hyun-soo believed that everything was his fault. Therefore, he needed to continue living to become a better person. A few days later, his uncle called him and wanted him to return to school on the 25th, the same day Hyun-soo initially intended to commit suicide. Hyun-soo agreed. But then he realized the strangeness of his uncle and everyone around him. This heightened his suspicions even more. Instead of going to school, he went to the cinema to watch the movie he had been looking forward to before his death. His uncle, or rather the monster within him, appeared, and Hyun-soo exposed the deception created by him to lead him into a world where he would become a monster in real life. Hyun-soo rejected the temptations of the monster and woke up. And that concludes the first part of the series. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel, like, or comment to provide further motivation. Peace.